Well, and I'm not trying to negotiate with some guy in a truck. Like, no, I'm in front of you. You can get in the lane over if you want to pass me, whatever.
Welcome to Car Free in Tennessee. This is Jonathan, and I'm here today with
Ethan.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Ethan.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm happy to talk with you.
So where are you from, Ethan?
I was born in Arizona, but I grew up mostly in Northern California in a town called Chico. And it's a very flat town, so just to get into it, I was biking a lot growing up.
Sure.
I moved here at the beginning of the pandemic, and I'm a teacher here in the Metro Nashville Public School District. Yeah.
That's an important job.
Some say, yeah. Thank you. We met through a mutual friend, and I got to come out to your goat farm.
That's right.
And
did you help paint the walls in my cabin?
I did. We primed the walls of your house, and I also helped you with an armadillo hunt at one point.
Armadillo hunt. That's
Can we talk about the armadillo hunt
Absolutely.
on Car Free Tennessee?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's Tennessee.
So it's sanctioned. Yeah, true. It is. So yeah, I got to hunt an armadillo in the dark. That's outside of my normal comfort zone, but I had a good time. And of course, armadillos are invasive.
They're not considered overall to be super destructive to the native habitats here in Tennessee, but there's no bag limit. You can hunt as many armadillos as you want.
Yeah.
So, fun fact. Do you own a car?
Yeah.
Technically,
I do.
right?
Barely. By a thread, I own a car. I started biking more in the fall, and I did have a car, and it was working, but I was just trying to bike more. I was on a mountain bike. Sometime in the winter, my car had a whole host of issues, and I had to take it to the shop. And it was in the shop for months, and they couldn't really figure out what was wrong with it. And it was during that time that I sprung for the e-bike. I found a bike that looked like it would suit my needs, and I got it on Facebook Marketplace for $400, which I am still so like. No matter what happens with the bike, that was a good deal.
And right now, your car doesn't work.
I have the car back now, but the lifestyle changes have mostly stuck. In almost every scenario, if it's in the area, I would rather bike. And I'm really happy to sort of live very locally.
Sure.
I would say for me, that's become something that I no longer would be willing to negotiate on as far as a lifestyle choice, partly because I so much prefer to be able to bike everywhere compared to drive everywhere. I can bike to work. I can bike to the gym. I can bike to the grocery store. Sort of everything I need is within a 20-minute bike ride. And also in Nashville specifically, if I want to cross town, if I want to get to South Nashville, I can still do that on the e-bike, probably sub 40 minutes, and it's no problem. So for pretty much anything in the city, I'm happy just on my e-bike.
So would you say that your e-bike has effectively been a car replacement for you?
Oh, completely. I mean, and it really was, when the car was in the shop, it 100% was. I mean, I didn't have a car. So, it was doing all of the work, and I kind of had to adapt to being completely on the bike.
Do you have any specific advantages that you can think of being car-free or car-light in Tennessee?
Yeah. There are some really clear advantages. There are financial advantages for sure, really obvious ones. Gas. So I haven't bought a tank of gas since probably March. And that has saved me a ton of money.
Have you run the numbers to compare the cost of
I haven't, but I should.
But, I assume electricity is a lot cheaper than gas.
I mean, totally. And also, I just think about what I paid for the bike. I made up for that cost in, what I would have been paying for gas in just a couple of months probably.
Right.
I mean, really no time at all. And so totally worth it. So financially, huge incentive. Also, repairs for the bike. Repairing a car, costly. It can be complicated. I am way less comfortable getting under the hood of a car than I am looking at the components on my bike. And that's been sort of an unexpected positive for me, is going more fully onto the bike. I am learning a lot about the mechanics of the bike and how to do all the repairs myself. Just because
many fewer moving parts.
Way fewer moving parts. But it's gratifying to be able to know how to operate the machine I'm on in and out, which I could not do on a car. Some people can do that. I cannot do that. So that's been really fantastic. And also, I mean, even if I didn't do those repairs myself, or, if you're watching this and you don't want to try to learn every single, component on your bike, like, taking it to a shop is still way cheaper than taking your car
Right.
to a mechanic.
Right.
So when issues do arise, it's way less of a sort of financial burden.
Right.
So that's a huge one for me.
What are the specific disadvantages that you encounter living car-free in Tennessee?
Yeah. There are two big ones for me. Safety, for sure, I would count. Not as much as I think some people might worry about it, which I can talk about, but safety is on there. And then, the other is it does limit your range of where you're able to travel. Now, once you start combining it with other things, that gets different. Like, I can't bike to Clarksville, but maybe I can bike to a bus stop, or you know what I mean? And
I've taken the bus to Clarksville.
There you go. Yeah. But it does slow you down. It does slow you down. And it's not even that much of a hassle. Like we're saying, like bike to the bus stop, get on.
Right.
I could park my bike at the bus stop, lock it up, and get on. There's so many ways to handle it.
Yeah, well, and that's what I do every day. Is I ride my bike from the farm to the bus stop. I take the bus into Nashville.
Yeah.
And then I take my bike off and ride around town. So if somebody gave you a car, just like a decent car, would you keep it? Would you sell it? Would you do something else with it?
I mean, I'm there now because I own a car.
You own a car.
I really seriously debated selling it, and I may still sell the car. You
could upgrade majorly your e-bike.
Right. Just think about the add-ons. Yeah, I thought about selling the car, and I may still. There are times when I feel, it's worth it to have the car just in emergency situations. But that being said, I lived without the car, without it even being an option for 3-4 months in the winter. And, I feel like it did not negatively affect my quality of life that much. In a lot of ways, it made things, I really enjoy biking. It's
fun.
It's fun. It's fun for me to get on my bike and head downtown. And it's just a really enjoyable time. Compared that to getting behind the wheel of a car, I don't always feel that way.
Sure. Well, you're a little tougher and braver than me because I didn't bike through this last winter.
Yeah.
I waited until it warmed up a little bit. But I think that this next winter, because I have an e-bike now, I'm going to try to stay using my bike through the winter.
I might have preferred when I didn't have the e-bike just because I got my heart rate up.
Yeah.
it's
sure.
40 degrees. Well, 40 degrees isn't that bad.
If you could make one specific change in your community to make it easier for people to live without a car, what would your one specific change be?
Our communities are built around cars. And so you're almost just the idea of living car-free, it's not an encouraging environment for that. So I would say, things like more bike lanes, more protected bike lanes specifically, because there are plenty of places where there's a bike lane and I don't necessarily feel super welcome in that lane of traffic. I need it to be protected. For me to really feel safe. That would be one major thing. There are some smaller changes I would make. There's a pedestrian bridge over by Frederick Douglass Park. It's fantastic. I'm so glad it's there. Anybody who lives in Nashville knows how hard it can be sometimes to cross the railroad tracks in Ellington Parkway. There aren't a lot of places to do that. That pedestrian bridge is not accessible. On one end, it's a ramp, and on the other end, it is a stairwell. There's some steps. So it's not accessible for bikes. It's not accessible for people in a wheelchair. That feels kind of like an easy fix and something that, things like that. I think there's lots of little things we could do here and there to make biking more accessible. Overall, I don't have a ton of complaints.
Sure.
I think if you keep your wits about you when you're on the road, I think sometimes you need to be okay taking up a little bit more space just for your own safety. I've mentioned to you before, when I'm coming down Dickerson Pike on my bike, I will fill a lane of traffic because I just
which is your right according to Tennessee state law.
Yeah, well, and I'm not trying to negotiate with some guy in a truck no, I'm in front of you. You can get in the lane over if you want to pass me, whatever. And I'm on an e-bike, so I'm going. Sometimes I'm going close to 30 miles an hour, and I'm like, really, are you in that much of a hurry? So anyway,
what would in your regular commuting and errands and wherever you normally go, what's a ballpark percentage of time or distance that you spend in a bike lane or in a separated path versus sharing a lane with a car.
Designated for a bike.
Right.
Great question. I mean, I'm like spitballing here.
Yeah.
I would guess 50 to probably not 60%. About half.
So
the
half
time.
the time.
About
Sure.
half the time.
It's
yeah.
not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad at all. Sometimes I will be surprised to find myself on a street with a bike lane. Sometimes I like turn onto a street and I don't think there's going to be a bike lane there, and there is, and I'm like, oh great, okay.
Sure.
So yeah, it's more friendly than I expected. I think a lot of people talk about Nashville as being super dangerous for cyclists, and some of that is true, but I have not necessarily had such a terrible experience.
Sure. Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
What is your message for other people living car-free in Tennessee?
For other people who are already living car-free, I salute you. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a commendable lifestyle. The more I try to live without using my car, the more I feel like it's not just a benefit to my community and to the planet, but it is a huge benefit to me and my quality of life.
Sure.
Completely. And that's personal. Not everybody feels that way. I know plenty of people who are, happy as a clam sitting in traffic. Mm-hmm. It's not me. And that's not the biggest, thing out of all this, but it has been a quality of life improvement for me to not be in my car all the time, to be out. You notice things street level on your bike that you don't when you're in a car. Kind of like when you're walking through a neighborhood, you pay more attention to things that you wouldn't if you're driving. You're just going slower. The pace is different. Your perspective is different. And I think that's really great. Mm-hmm. I think it's great to be more aware on a smaller level what's going on around you in the neighborhoods you're in. If you're in your neighborhood, in your own community, you start to recognize more faces on your bike compared to in your car. So stuff like that, I think it's a lot of small things, but they add up.
Sure. They
totally add up.
Sure. And what is your message to people who are drivers in Tennessee, who choose to drive in Tennessee?
I don't blame you. I wasn't biking at all a year ago. I was completely driving. I think what I would encourage people who are fully like car dependent, but are interested in maybe spending less time in their car, just look for the parts of your life where maybe you don't need a car. Like if your grocery store isn't a 40-minute drive, try biking to the grocery store. I would not now move somewhere where I couldn't, get to my grocery store or my work or my gym in, 10, 15 minutes. If you're moving, make that a criteria for you. Say, all right, I'm getting out of town, I need a new apartment for whatever reason. I'm going to make it a priority that I live somewhere that is part of a community. Mm-hmm. That's part of a community in some way where like all of my needs and amenities are within a local area, not a 30-minute drive, but local. Make that something you look for. And even if you're driving, you will find that's just great. Everybody loves that. Right. Everybody loves being close to the things they need. Mm-hmm. But if you prioritize it, this sort of stuff becomes more feasible, which everybody has to do their own calculation. But for me, it's so worth it. It's so worth it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Any final closing remarks you want to make?
No, I don't really have any closing remarks. I think biking is fun and great and good for you and good for your community. And, get silly with it. I have a milk crate on the back of my bike. It's super handy. I love it.
Awesome.
I don't know. Yeah.
All right. Great.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.